Hello and welcome everybody to Flicker Effect episode 360. We are recording this and broadcasting live on Sunday, February 14th, 2021. By the way, I'm David Lott. Joining me as always is Bobby Jackson.
Hey, happy Valentine's Day, guys.
And Michelle Hillard.
Hi everyone. Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day. I think it should also be noted, this should be an important date, that it was 1 year ago today that on Hulu, High Fidelity premiered for the first time. And I am still pissed off that show didn't get picked up for a second season. Wow. It still drives me nuts. It's like one of those things I just randomly think about. I'll just have this random thought. And because, I mean, now it's been a while. It's easy to forget the show. But I'll have these random thoughts of like, you know what? It's bullshit that show didn't get picked up for a second season.
No, it totally is.
Yeah, I don't know why it bothers me so much, but it does. Anyway.
No, it's bothersome because it was solid writing. It was a good storyline. And I think it ended at the end of that season of like, oh, this is going to go somewhere. And it's going to give another season of challenges for Rob to figure out her crap, basically, emotionally. And then... yeah, I know. And not to mention the fact that it just has a killer needle drop the whole time.
Right.
No, it's a good show based off of a good movie, based off of a good book. Like, it's all good, and it sucks that we're not getting more of it.
Anyway, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
How's it going, Bobby?
It's going good. You know, of everything you just mentioned about all that, the thing that surprises me is that you actually remember the day that it premiered. I guess because it was Valentine's Day, that's why you remember?
I had forgotten. I follow Zoe Kravitz on social media, and I was scrolling through, I think it was Twitter or Instagram, and saw a post of hers where she was still like thanking people for their love of the show and said something about a year ago today. So I double checked. I'm like, yeah, wow, it was a year ago today. So I ended up watching the pilot again today just for shits and giggles because I like the show. Yeah. And it'll probably be another, like, just one of those random shows that I'm like, you know what, I enjoy this. I want to put something on that I've seen before, and kind of like West Wing is a lot of times. I can see High Fidelity turning into that kind of show too. So I really enjoyed it.
It was good.
So that's why I didn't remember that off the top of my head until I kind of confirmed it today when I got a reminder.
Okay.
Shout out to Zoe Kravitz.
That was like, when you said it, I was just thinking in my head, like, man, I knew you loved the show, but
you remember the date released?
That's pretty.
It should be noted, I could not tell you the first day that West Wing dropped. I don't know that date. Sorry.
Okay.
Maybe that should be a holiday for me, and I don't know it.
I remember I was a senior in high school. It was that fall.
I mean, I think I knew the year. I think it was 99. So, I mean, September or something, probably 99. No, I don't think so. I think it was 99 was the first season.
Challenge you. Anyways.
Wow. Well, Michelle, since it's been a while, I'm just curious. I mean, you've got to have a lot to talk about because we haven't heard you talk about anything you've watched in a while. So I just want to sit back and just say, Michelle, tell us and give us all the glory of what you've been watching lately.
First I'll give credit where credit's due. David's right. It was September of 99.
September 22nd of 1999. So I knew the year.
I was a junior in high school.
I'm surprised you wouldn't have guessed the month because it's a network show and typically network shows premiere in September. So I said I think probably
September or October something maybe.
Yeah, no,
I said that, but
I knew it was the fall.
I didn't know the date.
Okay.
But now I'll know that date forever. So September 22nd, if we do a show,
we're having a party.
We will dedicate it to the West Wing.
Go.
Anyway, sorry,
we'll
Michelle.
get our little what's next mugs out.
Yep.
That'd be nice.
Anyway.
So yeah, I haven't been on for a while, and I guess in retrospect, maybe I should have seen more than what I'm going to mention, but I've seen a decent amount. I'll start with kind of a more basic thing. So I guess a couple weeks ago, Netflix released Night Stalker, and it's about the serial killer in Los Angeles in the late 80s, mid to late 80s. We'll go with that. It's a 4-episode show, so it's not too bad, but it was interesting in the like, whoa, this dude was messed up kind of way. It's your typical, like, you know, the detectives chasing the guy and realizing how messed up he is with each crime scene. It gets deeper and deeper and deeper. And then you kind of learn a lot more backstory on the detectives that are involved, and nobody really actually cares. But it's fine. I would say in the end, the last episode is really the most intriguing one, which is when they catch the Night Stalker finally. And it was really just kind of the way I really knew nothing about this mass murderer that happened in Los Angeles. And yeah, it was the way it all kind of went down at the end. I was like, dude, that's awesome. Like, it was a really cool way for a man who is basically traumatizing and just, you know, making a nightmare out of a city. Making every citizen afraid for their own lives and their families' lives and their friends' lives. And the way he got caught was pretty awesome. And yeah, I was like, hell yeah, Los Angeles. That was really sweet. So for that reason alone, I enjoyed it, I would say. Overall, could you miss it? Totally miss it. But I know it's been like on and off in the top 10 of Netflix. So, yeah.
So you're saying, like, in the genre of true crime documentaries, it's not, there was nothing
to write home about in the way that it kind of unfolds.
It didn't bring anything new to the genre.
No,
just another story to tell.
Another story to tell. But I will say, like, as far as mass murderers go, this dude he's freaking up there. I'm surprised that it's not more culturally known about this murderer, because, like, he was crazy. Man, they were rough murders. Those were some rough murders.
I mean, Bobby could maybe speak to this. Maybe it's the kind of thing like in Southern California, you talk to people and they're like, oh yeah, he's just like a Ted Bundy level or whatever, but maybe not so much here. I don't know.
To my knowledge, I would say nationwide it's not spoken about. But yeah, maybe in like Southern California, they're like, oh yeah, that dude was freaking nuts. That sucks. Yeah. Like, that was a crappy year too.
I think based on people I've talked to about it that were here during that time, they do say, yeah, they definitely remember it and it being a big thing. Because you can imagine that anytime you're watching something on your local news, something like that's going to be the lead story quite often. And so I believe that was the case here as well. I wasn't living here at that time, but I talked to a couple people and they said that definitely it was something that was a big deal, and that even a couple of people I had talked to about it said that they didn't really want to watch it just because it did feel a little too close to home, and kind of just that eeriness of it. So I was like, yeah, I can respect that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, he stalked and traumatized greater Los Angeles. I mean, and even then up in San Francisco, like, you know, the realization that it wasn't even just LA, it was he went around. Like, it was bigger than even that. Like, I can only imagine what it had been like living in that time frame, how afraid you would be, especially for like people in Los Angeles, you know, in the summertime. Like, you guys, you know, air conditioning units aren't like a major thing out there, especially in the 80s. They still weren't. And everybody just has their windows open at night, and he always came at night. And like, I just couldn't imagine spending a summer so petrified and being like, well, we're just going to boil in our house this summer because we're not keeping the windows open. And, you know, no. It's rough. It was a rough murder series in that sense. But I would say, as far as like what they did directorially and how they kind of paced it, it's nothing to like revolutionary.
Right.
But on my hiatus, I really kind of went deep on a certain show, and I'm not going to lie, I am very happy with the results. I'll just say it. I could do a whole show just on it. But if anybody, I'm sure most people are like, Michelle, you're just now watching this? You're so late to the game. But Netflix has the entire series of Schitt's Creek, and I binged it in a week, which I guess to some people is probably slow, but for me it worked out pacing wise just fine. Schitt's Creek is amazing. 5 seasons. I'd have to look it up. 4, 5.
Let me see. 5. I think it's more than 4.
5
anyway.
5 seasons, and how many episodes in a season?
I think there was a few seasons with 11, and the remainder were with 13. So 5 seasons, maybe even 6.
It was 6 seasons. 80 episodes total.
Yeah, There was and
it seems
they're
fast.
30-minute episode. Well, so they're 30 minutes on TV with commercials on Netflix. They're 20 to 23 minutes.
22 minutes usually.
So
average runtime for that kind of show.
So it's pretty quick to go through them. No, so I'll keep it to a minimum here. Again, I could probably do an entire show on Schitt's Creek. I love it so much, and I so now understand what everybody's been talking about, what everybody loves and raves and quotes it, because it's freaking awesome. The writing is amazing. Dan Levi did such a great thing, like the idea behind the show, the characters that he wrote, the storylines, the whole overarching storyline that he has. Like, he had a vision from beginning to end, and he executed it, and it was a beautifully done story about this family. And honestly, like, God, there's so many things to love about it. But the characters he wrote are all each individually very strong, wonderful characters. The storylines are great. They're really captivating. The humor in it is ridiculously good. It's so smart and fast and witty, and yet it's, even when they're being, I'm going to say air quotes, mean to each other, everything is done with love. Everything, there's just no hatred towards anyone at any time. And it's so loving in such a different way. And I think it's a show that shows not what the world could be, but like, God, if we could be that way, if every place was like this, I mean, we would just be singing Kumbaya. There would be rainbows everywhere. I mean, like, it's such a wonderful way to just see the world, and I think it's something we can just strive towards. I would love for this to happen in my lifetime, for just stories, movies, TV, life, everything to kind of mimic it. Where we're just not making it about certain things. It just kind of is. Nobody cares. It's just life, and it's so good. Oh God, that show is just. I cried like a baby at the end, like a baby.
Oh, wow.
I wept.
Well,
it was such a good ending
the one
too.
Question, yeah.
Yeah, the last episode was
I don't want
crazy.
you to say any more about it.
I won't ruin it, but the last episode was so well written. It's probably one of the best last episodes to a TV series I've ever seen. Like, that's
high praise.
It is a very strong ending, and it was. The last episode is definitely for the fans. It's totally written for the fans. It's a love story goodbye to the fans, which is great, but it's done so well. I mean, like, I think in that 23-minute episode, I was crying for 18 minutes of it. Like, it was just so, but it was really, really, really awesome. And crying and laughing. But no, it's really good. I even watched the little special that they did. On Netflix, there's a little special that basically, I guess, the camera crew had to follow Dan Levy around for the last season of filming. And then there's interviews with people about how it kind of started, how it went throughout, and then at the end of it, and just how much the show means to fans and all the events that they do. It was a really cool little end cap to watching the whole show.
So, where would you put this show at in terms of the pantheon of sitcoms and just comedies, dramedies, whatever you want to call it, whatever category? Where would this rank for you?
I mean, it's definitely within like my top 10 for sure. Like, if it was like not me, like if I were just to rank like sitcoms and TVs throughout kind of history, it would probably be within the top 20, like of all, because it's just done so well. Okay. God, I can't even like pinpoint what my absolute favorite like sitcom TV show would be, like, because there's just so many, but it's easily top 10. I wouldn't say that it would be like, I don't know if it would be in top 3, maybe top 5, maybe 4 or 5. I don't know. I haven't really sat down and like thought about it, because I mean, there's definitely shows for me. Like, I fully admit I'm a basic B. I love Friends. I do. If it's on and I'm cleaning the house, I'll just let it run, you know. I love Big Bang Theory, Frasier. I'm a sucker for Frasier. Love me some Frasier. No. There's a lot of shows that I've really enjoyed over the history of life, and I'd have to sit down and rank them. Maybe we should do something like that sometime, where we all kind of like pick a category, like sitcom or like drama, and we all pick like our top 5 or top 10 or something sometime. I don't know.
That'd be cool.
You could see doing that.
Yeah.
I just haven't really thought about it in that sense, but I would definitely say it's easily in the top 10, like hands down.
And that's high praise, because the only reason why I asked is because I've heard people say that this is for them their favorite comedy of all time, and that's including in that conversation shows like The Office, Friends, Parks and Rec, whatever have you, and they're saying this is their number one. So that's incredible praise for a show that hasn't, at least in the pop zeitgeist, been around all that long. Had 6 seasons, but I feel like I think I've heard of it all the time since it came out, but not from like large population of people. It feels like only within this last year that everyone else kind of get on board to it. So for it to be that good for people is indeed high praise. And I don't think at this point I've heard anyone say anything negative about it. So that's pretty incredible.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome show, and I understand now why there's such a cult following for it, and I'm super in it. Like, hi, my name is Michelle. I'm a Schitt's Creek fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm there. Like, give me a badge. Like, it's one of those shows that it doesn't shock me to hear that people think it's their absolute top show ever. I super get that. And I agree with you. Like, I feel like when the show came out, it was kind of a sleeperish show because it was on, what was it, Pop? The TV, the station Pop. I don't know what it's called now. I feel like they changed it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It was a cable station. So it was a station that was relatively new. People still didn't really understand what it was all about. They were like, oh, is this another like entertainment, like an E-news, E-channel kind of situation is where the show went. And, you know, the show was filmed and done in Canada. Not that we don't get Canadian shows, obviously. The CW's made their whole living up there in Canada, and they're getting quite an awesome deal on it. But I think it just was kind of a slow crawl with us here in the States in the first 2 seasons. And then I think it really took off in season 3 here for us. And that's when I think the cult following here in the States at least started up. And then I think around season 3 is when they really started getting awards, and they started really kind of getting notarized in the public eye a lot more. But there's definitely a huge following because they were having huge events, especially right before the last season. And then the last season aired, and the last season aired right at the beginning of the COVID-19, the pandemic. So everybody's been home this year, and everybody's had a chance to watch this show. And yeah, now it's like wildfire. It's crazy. But nope, I cannot sing the praises of Schitt's Creek anymore. I think it's fabulous. Maybe I'll do a little one-off show. I don't know, but it's awesome. I highly recommend it. And that's where I'm at with that one. So yeah, Schitt's Creek's awesome.
And that only scratches the surface of the stuff you've watched, right?
Yeah.
Anything else?
I mean, I won't like go into all of it, but I've seen a lot of things. I mean, I think there's a few things that you still haven't talked about that you and I have recently seen because it was the Super Bowl weekend last weekend. And so we didn't get to talk about some things. But what else have I watched? I don't even know.
It was all about Schitt's Creek.
It was all about Schitt's Creek for me for like a week.
I watched some other stuff.
I watched a couple other things, but Schitt's Creek was basically
didn't really hold a candle to Schitt's Creek, so
it didn't. Schitt's Creek was really good.
What did you think of Supernova?
Did you talk about Supernova yet?
No.
Oh, okay. So David and I went and saw a movie that I thought was really looking forward to. It's called Supernova. It stars Colin Firth and Stanley Tucci. And I'm trying to think how the best way to describe it. It's this couple. They're on like a little like extended weekend holiday. And the big overarching storyline is that Stanley Tucci is dealing with dementia. And he's getting to the point that things are getting bad. And so he and his partner, Colin Firth, are kind of coming to a head on the situation of how to handle and how to deal with it while also just kind of is on this little road trip for the weekend. And yeah, Supernova. That movie was freaking awesome. That movie, I really like that movie a lot. It killed me to watch it because as I'm watching the film go on, it's this conversation that kind of keeps creeping up in and out throughout the film. It's a conversation that when you are with your loved one, your life partner, the person that you're beholden to, and you're having these hard conversations. It's the conversations about the end of your life, the end, how things should go down. Like you're just the realization of this is the start of the end. And these are hard conversations to have with your loved ones, be it your parents, your children, your partner, like anyone. And so it's tough, but it's life, and it's executed in such a beautiful way because you're getting glimpses of this hard conversation here and there, but there's other things happening while they're on their little journey. And no, it was just a beautiful story, and it unfolded just lovely. I'm very, very, very much loving Supernova. I think it's a fabulous film.
Yeah, I watched it as well.
David's gonna be like, it's horrible.
You're too funny. I was not going to say that, but I will say it definitely didn't resonate with me. I think the way it sounds like it did with you.
Oh, really?
No, I thought it was I'll say a fine film. It was good, but it's also not one that has like sat with me afterwards or anything. It just kind of like I enjoyed it, and that was it for me. I don't know. Like there was nothing about the way the story was told that had like a larger effect on me, if it's the best way to put it, I guess. Like I thought it was a nice story. It's a nice movie. Yeah. And that's kind of where I am with it. We saw it in a movie theater, in an art house theater.
Yep.
But it definitely strikes me as something. Yeah, if it's on Netflix eventually, or you can just rent it on your whatever VOD service you use. I mean, I could see that it's worth a rental if this is the kind of movie that's your speed. But I couldn't necessarily say like you should really go out of your way, especially during a pandemic, to go and like see it in the theater. I thought it was good, but I didn't think it was great. Is where I am with it.
Gotcha. I can see that. I don't know. I think for me, it sat with me a little bit afterwards. Like I left the theater and I was all misty eyed. I was emotional.
I mean, I love these actors. I love Colin Firth. I love Stanley Tucci. But I don't know. Yeah,
what made you
knock it out of the park for me?
What made you choose to see that movie? Did you hear it? Was word of mouth? Was there a trailer, or you just saw something was playing at the theater and you wanted to check it out?
I think we saw it as a trailer for the film that we saw a few weeks before that, right?
Yeah, maybe that's where I saw the trailer at the Enzian, the theater, the art house theater near us. And then we a lot of times we'll watch CBS Sunday Morning. I know Stanley Tucci, I think it was on there that he had a segment on there recently, which I had seen the trailer already, but then in their interview with him on that, he was promoting the film. So they talked about the movie on there. And I mean, this art house theater we're talking about is just a single screen. So maybe one or at most two movies playing there at a time. So this was the movie for the week. And I was like, yeah, you know what? It looked interesting. I'll check this out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was the day before your birthday. So I wanted to hang out with you, do something a little more usual for birthday celebration. So we saw a movie.
Okay.
That's what we do.
Okay.
So yeah, that's Supernova. Directed by, I think, someone who's mostly known as an actor, Harry McQueen. I don't think he's got a lot of directorial credits behind his name. Hinterland, I think, is the only other thing he's directed. Other than that, he's mostly has acting credits, at least according to his IMDb profile. Looks very young.
He does look very young. My good gracious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't heard of him.
No, I'd never heard of him before this either.
Well, there's another movie that's going to be at our art house actually in a couple of days. It starts up Nomadland.
Yeah, I mean, because we talked about Nomadland, that was one of those two movies, which is also coming to our house theater. Is it Minari? Is that how you say it?
Mm-hmm.
Nomadland and that film both were like on a lot of people's top 10 lists.
Yeah.
I guess because officially they did get a release in 2020, and some people were able to see them, but it's finally, those films are finally now going to start making the rounds in movie theaters. So I'm going to try to see both of those.
Yeah, no, I'd like to.
It's funny when you said it's coming to our house theater.
Oh,
Initially, I thought you meant you talking about your home.
Oh,
no.
Sorry.
You'll be watching it at home, and then and the second time you sort of said it, I was like, oh, they're talking about like a art house theater.
art house theater.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, and like, see, for us, our little art house theater, I don't know. It's not too far away from where we live, and so it's an easy one for us to go to. And what's nice about it is because it's a small theater, but it's kind of personalized. There's a good amount of space between people. You're sitting at a table, you're sitting in like old office chairs. It's kind of random and fun. I don't know. As far as going to a theater goes, I feel pretty okay. They're very, very up on their precautions. Like, you get temperature checked before you walk into the theater, which is that's a big one. You have to wear your mask the whole time. And they're really like strong on that. Like, basically, unless you're eating or drinking, you have to have your mask on the whole time.
Yeah, the tables are I think they're pretty well spread out.
I think they keep a good distance between the seating of the tables and everything. So it's like going to that theater for me I'm comfortable going. It doesn't like stress me out to go there. Plus, it hasn't really been like sold out when we go.
No, I mean, we tend to also go on more off nights, like a Monday or a Tuesday night or something.
That's true.
Yeah,
so, it's nice. Well, plus you and I, we're members. You can pay money to be an annual member and have a membership there. And we're the tier where when we go, we can actually reserve a specific table in the theater in advance. So we tend to have, cool. we have a couple of favorite spots in there. And we've looked at the last few times and gotten our absolute favorite table, which has been really nice. So it's like we kind of know already what's reserved a little bit. It's kind of nice.
Yeah. Was there anything else you wanted to mention, Michelle? I mean, floor is yours. There was so much to watch.
So, in a way, this could be an interesting Valentine's film for some people. But last weekend, Netflix dropped a really big one, and now I can't think of it. Malcolm and
Marie.
There it is. I was like, I'm forgetting her name. Malcolm and Marie dropped. Wow. Yeah, I don't even know where to begin with this movie.
I'm very curious to hear your take on this, because we hadn't talked about Supernova either, so I wasn't aware till now that you loved it so much, and then this too, we haven't talked about this.
We have not spoken about this
for some reason in particular. I'm like, all right, where do you stand on this one?
Okay, I'll lay a little bit of groundwork. Malcolm and Marie is a film about a couple who comes home from a very epic evening for Malcolm in his career. The couple they have a fight on and off throughout the entire night. And the film is just them one night having this on and off argument all night long. It's shot in black and white. It's like watching a play on film. Director is Sam Levinson. He wrote it too.
He's responsible for Euphoria, for those who don't know who he is.
Euphoria. And there's only two people in the whole film. It's just John David Washington and Zendaya. So you really get to see a lot of them. I don't know how to begin. It's like there's a part of me that wants to say that I liked it, but I will say, like, I felt like I was struggling to like it, and not because of the topics and the situation and just the way that the storyline was going. I felt that the pacing sometimes was a little bit long. I don't know. I almost don't even know. There's a lot that kind of happens in this film. It brings up a lot of different topics, that all come back to a main focus. But yeah, it touches on a lot of things. And I think I remember like we watched the movie. I went to bed and I kind of had a hard time falling to sleep that night because I was thinking about it. And like I've been thinking about this movie on and off all week. And I don't know. I think I'm still kind of digesting it, as crazy as that sounds. I will say I think that Zendaya's performance in it is really, really good. Like the girl's got some chops, and she pulls no punches in this film. Yeah, I don't know. I think I kind of want to let you guys talk about it because I'm still not fully formed in a really great opinion right now, like in any direction. If that makes any sense.
You saw it too, right, Bobby?
I did see it.
What did you think?
Did you want me to? I thought maybe you were going to counterbalance Michelle just before not counterbalance. I don't know if you felt the same.
Oh, you thought he was going to give his opinion? You're
fine. Wait till the end. Let everyone else share their opinions first. No,
like I said, I still haven't really formed.
No, I mean, I could go ahead and if you guys want me to say.
Bobby's.
No,
then
it's fine. I haven't really mentioned anything yet, so let me dive into it. I did have a chance to see it. I only saw it more recently. I think I just saw it. What was that, on Friday maybe? So it's still pretty fresh for me. Yeah, just saw it. And I would say that this movie is confounding in a way because there are terrific performances by Zendaya and also John David Washington. And it's like you said, it's sort of almost a stage play. And because it was filmed during COVID, they really made sure that this was just a two-person act of a story. But therein kind of lies the problem with what I just said. It's not necessarily a story. It's really just two people arguing for quite a length of time. And it almost felt like it was a boxing match because it was like they'd get in the center of the ring, so to speak, and fight. And then they separate in their corners for a second and then come back and fight. It was like you were watching a 12-round boxing match in a way. And it's tiresome in that sense because they're kind of like it's odd because, and that's why I say it's sort of a weird, it's why it's sort of a weird thing is because in one way to watch that as a movie is tiresome in that sense. But there's also a realness to it in that sometimes fights do kind of happen like that in the way that they sort of portray it, that kind of one way and you think everything's sort of settled and it kind of bubbles back up again and then it kind of dissipates and then it kind of bubbles up again. That's true to life in some ways, but do I necessarily want to watch that for 2 hours or whatever the case, however long it was? I don't know. I think there's a lot going on within the movie of what's being said by the characters and the context of it and how some of it feels really true and rings true. I think my big issue with it is run really. Like you said, Michelle, the pacing is a little wonky. And I think if this was maybe, I don't know, maybe even like 70 minutes, 80 minutes, I think I would have had a better experience overall with it. It's horrible. I don't think it's overly something I could feel like I would to people to watch necessarily. I like that I did have a chance to watch it just to see what it was, sort of a showcase for these two actors. But it's not a story that I would say, okay, this is something that you want to pop on Netflix if you have the time. It's just not that kind of a thing that I feel necessarily comfortable in suggesting to most people. There's certain people maybe I'd say, yeah, check this out. It's kind of an interesting thing. I don't know how you'll feel about it after you watch it, but it's sort of an experience more so than something that you can kind of sit back and necessarily really critique it as a movie. Because as a movie, it's not that. It's not. I don't think I can categorize it as a movie per se, because it's just sort of like if you see the one scene that you got with Scarlett Johansson and Adam Driver in Marriage Story, and you expand that out for 2 hours, that's kind of essentially what this is, and it's hard to sort of recommend that to a person unless they were looking for that specifically just to kind of experience it, like I said. So as an experience, I would say that it was an interesting thing to see and be able to witness. And I don't say that I regret watching it. It's just something that I just still don't know that I could recommend to the large majority of people out there, unless you really are fans of these two actors and you want to see them doing something a little bit different than what they've done in the past.
Bobby, I think you hit the nail on the head. It is like watching an emotional boxing match for a 2-hour runtime. How long was it? It ran for a while.
It's pretty long. Yeah.
And that's not necessarily bad, but at the same time, it's almost like you're being a voyeur in this situation with these two people for this whole length of time. And so it's like you're watching them fight, and then, like you said, go to their corners, and they kind of come back, and like it's just on and off. And the film itself is a little emotionally draining, and yeah, it's pretty true to form. I think, you know, when I think everybody kind of has a fight like that with somebody at some point in their life, with the relationship, or that's how they always fight. I don't know, but everybody can relate to this kind of a situation that these two are in right now. And yeah, it's not a movie that I would easily just be like, oh, you guys should watch it, it's amazing. It's like, watch it and just be prepared to sit with it, but enjoy it for what it is. The performances are really strong. I mean, her last monologue that she does right at the very end of the film, whoo, dude, that one was like, dang. I mean, I don't know if it gets everybody, but I would say for me, like, hearing her say that, I was like, I don't know if it's certain people feel that way, or there's always one person in a relationship that feels that way, or maybe it's just that women feel that way, or I don't know, or one partner kind of has that weight. But I feel like what she said, it was just like, it was powerful. It was weighty, but it was yeah, they're really strong performances, and it's an interesting film. What are your thoughts, Steven?
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, it was an hour and 46-minute runtime. I just looked it up, by the way. Yeah, I guess I have always been drawn to movies that are a little more, what's the word I'm looking for right now?
Dialogue heavy?
Well, dialogue heavy, but, well, that too, but intimate like this. Just, it's kind of a, it is like a stage play.
It is. Totally.
And yeah, I get what you guys are saying, and I've kind of heard this a lot too, just seeing other reactions. It seems like it has very mixed reactions. I just checked, it has like a 60% on Rotten Tomatoes, so it is like technically fresh according to their metric, I guess.
Right.
But I think it's right there on the line. Yeah, I don't know. Like, I myself did not find that the runtime was too long. I thought the runtime was just right. Yeah, it does feel a bit like a boxing match, but I thought it worked. It felt very real. There was indeed a lot of realness, a lot of stuff happening in this fight that really does happen. Like there's this moment, there's this part in the movie where, I forget when this exactly happened, but you can tell they are both kind of standing firm, and neither of them wants to break to be the one to kind of show any white flag of, hey, what, everything's going to be okay. Like there's just a lot of stuff like this in the movie that I'm like, yeah, this is real. This works for me. I thought the performances were great. This movie, unlike Supernova for me, this movie sat with me. I kept going back to this movie in my head, and it had a larger effect on me. It was funny because we saw them so close to each other, and they're both movies about couples. You even look at the movie posters for them, and the movie posters look similar. They're like close-ups on a couple's faces.
Yeah.
And Yeah, this I don't know. This movie resonated with me more than Supernova did. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I thought it was quite good. So
Nice.
that's where I am with it.
That's good.
Oh, it is
That's
good.
cool. I appreciate that you really enjoyed that because I could see why it would be very polarizing for people,
Yeah.
especially if they don't know getting themselves into. They're thinking of one type of movie. So hopefully, between the three of us, we've kind of put it out there for anyone that is looking to watch it. They know what they might be getting themselves into and can say, "Yeah, I want to check that out," or they can say, "Ah, that doesn't sound like it's for me," and just let it be. So
Right.
I think we did a pretty good job of covering all of it.
Yeah.
But
I think
it is definitely something that's feel like that you could come back to at different times and be able to something else out of a layer of it because of the some of the nuances in the arguments and some of the abrasiveness and the realness of it all. I think there's definitely things that you can pull from it. And like I said, the performances are just top notch in the way they do it. There's this one particular part that I think of is when John David Washington has this monologue, and before he did it, it's like, man, he must be tired because that was a long monologue, and he literally like starts breathing heavy as he kind of like almost not passes out, but he just kind of collapses because it was such a long monologue. And I was like, and he was giving it everything. So I was like, yeah, that seems pretty real. I don't know if he improvised that for the script, but it definitely felt like, yeah, that was a lot to get out.
Yeah.
It's an impressive film to watch, and it's one that I think because it has kind of sat with me. Like, I would like to revisit this film. I don't necessarily need to revisit it so quickly after first watching. I think I need a little more time before watching it again, but I would like to watch it again. And yeah, like I will say if there was anything about this film that I think was slightly unrealistic, it was the fact that the two of them were so good at letting the other person just go and not interrupt them. And I'm like, in a real fight, the other person's pretty good about listening and letting him go, but every now and then they jump in to try to interrupt a little bit, and that doesn't happen. So that's probably my one, like, that's not that realistic. Like, every time, like, they would let one of them go, and which is great. As a viewer, it's great because you're watching this character get all of their thoughts and emotions out and then complete their sentence. And then it's like there's this moment of pause, and then the other would kind of come back with their thoughts, opinions, feelings / completely, 180 on the situation. And I was watching it, and I was like, it's really nice that they let the other person talk completely, and then they jumped in. And I'm like, that's how we're supposed to argue with our loved one, when you're with the partner.
That's how a presidential debate should go.
Or that.
Let the person talk,
Right.
and then you talk.
Right. Like it's the ideal way to, and therapists say this all the time. They're like, if you're going to have a constructive argument with a loved one like this, you should really let them just get everything out and kind of let them have their piece. Really listen to them, not just wait your turn to then just shoot out at them and then talk. And I'm thinking that's the idealistic way to have a constructive argument with another person. That's not usually how it goes down, but that's the ideal way to do it. And if anything, it makes me go, maybe I should be a better arguer with my spouse. Take some notes and go, okay, relax, let them get through their whole thing, and then come back with my thoughts. Maybe the movie will make me a better arguer.
All right.
Debater, whatever you want to say. Anyways, so yeah.
Well, with that, let's move into some fun territory because I don't honestly know. Well, I say that because I've had a chance to talk to David. I've had a chance to talk with Yasha to a certain degree, but I don't know that I know where you feel and land on the newest sensation in the whole wide world, apparently, WandaVision, the most popular show in the world at this point.
Oh, WandaVision. Okay. Now this is sorry. Yeah, as crazy as it is, I have yet to give my thoughts on WandaVision, I don't think. Maybe I did.
No, I think it
I
has timing of you being able to do the shows hasn't worked out. I don't think you've had a chance to talk about it because then we did our top 10 show.
That's right.
And it landed the weekend I think it started. So we didn't talk about it. And then you and Bobby couldn't be the next week. So Yasha and I talked about it. And then finally Bobby joined us. And here we are.
Okay. Time. So now I get to finally voice my opinions on WandaVision. And obviously, if you couldn't tell by my huge gasp of exhilaration, I am loving it. Every minute of it. I think WandaVision's great. And I think what's really interesting about it is just, I feel like there's so many layers to it. And I will agree with, I think, the general consensus. I remember you and I heard what Yasha was saying. Like, those first 2 episodes are very, like, I mean, on one sense, the first 2 episodes really kind of set the groundwork. But at the same time, you're going, it's setting the groundwork, but for what? Like, what the hell is happening here, you know? And it's really that 3rd episode that I think you start to see a different side to the whole situation. And you kind of go, okay, here we go. Now we're really getting into the nitty gritty of the show and what's really going on. And you're getting a lot more understanding of what you've just been watching. Whereas when you first are watching the first episode, you're kind of like, okay, this is kind of neat. What am I watching? And then you kind of get it. Right. So for me, though, as a whole, I've enjoyed everything. I've enjoyed even the first 2 episodes, I think more than David did. Because for me, like, there's so many, like, little Easter eggs and so many, like little hints back to, like, old shows. And, like, I liked kind of picking out, like, oh, that's from Bewitched. And, oh, that's, you know, that's from Dick Van Dyke. Oh, that's from I Love Lucy. Oh, that's from, like, I loved watching that kind of stuff. Like, those little touches, that filled my heart with joy. And then there's the whole other side to it, which is just the Marvel side and getting like little Marvel things here and there and just like, oh, that means this and this is a reference to that, and oh, could this mean this? I don't know. So for me, there's a lot happening and I love all of it. I feel like every episode there's a decent amount of things to kind of unpack, but I won't get into all the other past episodes. I'll focus maybe just on this past week's maybe. Overall, I'm loving it, is what I'm saying. So I'm very happy with it. I think there's a lot. It's very exciting. I feel like it can go, it's still at a point right now, even after this last episode, but even prior to that, it could go in a few different directions based on the comics that it's all based on, because it's based off of 2 different variations of WandaVision. But then there's even other offshoots from other comics that are in other sections too, and all those kind of bits and pieces kind of thrown together to make one, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's pulling from different things and then also maybe doing its own thing. We don't really know specifically. There's framework of can be pulling from. But I guess that since this week's episode is still sort of fresh, and I think the main thing to touch on, and really I want to get your guys' thoughts on, is last week's episode, because that's probably been the biggest point of talk to this point of the show. Is when they reveal Quicksilver, Pietro.
Okay. So we want to focus on the very special episode that's like the 80s, 90s show.
Yeah, just because I feel like that's where everyone has really been, their mind's been blown. And I saw the episode that Friday morning, and I remember you guys had not. So I was like, well, if you haven't seen it, you probably want to stay off of social media because it's a big one. And so how were you feeling when you saw that? Because I think I had heard the potential of it beforehand. So even when I saw it, I was still surprised by it, but not as surprised if I had heard nothing about it. So just from someone's standpoint that maybe had no idea that it was coming, I'm very curious to hear how it landed for you.
Okay, so real quick, we're obviously talking spoilers. So if people...
Well, I mean, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We've already talked spoilers at this
I
point,
know,
so.
I'm just saying, like, you know, obviously Bobby just said the big one, but yeah, we're talking spoilers. If anybody's watching and they're like, wait, what?
But not for the most recent episode, for episode back.
No.
Okay, so an episode back we'll do spoilers, but for the episode that's the Halloween special, we're not going to do spoilers.
No.
Not unless we, like, at the very end of this, we want to kind of, like, in the show with some spoiler talk about that, I guess, but...
I just want to clarify. People are listening.
Yeah.
I don't want to be the person that ruins something for somebody.
No.
All right, so
I would agree with the sentiment that it's been a week. If you're watching this show and you haven't watched WandaVision after that, come on. I mean,
I agree with the 1 week is solid.
1 week is a pretty good buffer. I mean, I think the writing was on the wall for the character to show up for sure. So that wasn't a surprise. I was kind of waiting for it by the end of that episode. I'm like, Quicksilver's going to show up in this. He has to, like, of course he is. Like, but I had no idea and honestly hadn't really considered that it wouldn't be the MCU actor that we know, but instead the Fox actor that we know. And so it was a shock. I mean, I wasn't like jumping out of my couch or anything like when it happened, but I was like, wow, they did that. All right. like that was kind of my reaction to it. I think it's pretty cool. But that was my quick, like, I was like, oh shit, that's a thing. All right, let's see where this goes. And that's kind of where I was.
I think I must have heard something at some point that it could be that specific actor coming in to play Quicksilver instead of the other one. So I think somehow I got kind of tipped off somewhere in social media, but I also didn't have it confirmed in my head. So when the door opened, I was kind of like, it was very like, it could go either way. Like, I know it's going to be him. It could go either way.
Well, like, and when you first see that shot of the back of his head, I was like, it almost doesn't look right. And it's like, are we not even going to see this guy's face? Like, this looks like a stand-in or something. Like, I don't know. Sorry. Anyway, go on.
I think the other thing is that actor has aged a little bit since the last time he was in that role. And so I think physically he's even changed a little bit since the last time he portrayed Quicksilver. So no, for me, I think it's like it was, well, which one is it going to be? And then when I could tell from the back of his head, because I was already expecting it was going to be one of the two of them. So as soon as I saw the back of his head, I was like, oh, okay, we're going this way. But then I think for me, like, it going that direction is very like, wow, the way that storyline could go and the directions it could go in clearly are, in my opinion, much broader than if they had the original actor from Age of Ultron reprising his role as Pietro. I think if they'd had him, it would have been a very narrow scope. But having the other actor, and God, we really need to get his name up because I keep saying the other actor.
Evan Peters and
Evan Peters, thank
Johnson.
You. So, as soon as he gets on screen, I think it's the realization of, well, that's X-Men Quicksilver. It's the Fox X-Men Quicksilver. It could go into multiple directions in my mind of what they could do with the character and the situations. So it opens a lot of doors. And I think that was a really smart decision because I think it's keeping the audience members guessing, like, where could they go next? What's going to happen next? Like, okay, well, if he does this, then it means that. But it could also mean that. Like, there's just so many different ways it could go, which is awesome. Which, again, in the Halloween episode, we get so much more. Oh, my God, it's so good. And so, no, I think it was extremely well done, and it was a very, very correct decision on their end, in my opinion.
Yeah, I pretty much am right there with you, Michelle. I just think it's just sort of a stroke of genius to do that because who sees that coming really, unless if there had been no leak of that, just the thought of it, because your mind just would not go there. It's just not something would stick out in that way just because you're thinking, yeah, she's been talking about her brother. Aaron Taylor Johnson played Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. So if he shows up, then that's who you're getting. But to throw that in there and then to leave it that way at the end of that episode, you just don't know where they're going with it. Does this mean now, because the broader implications is that does this mean that we're now getting all these X-Men from the Fox universe to cross over into the, MCU? I mean, that's the main thing that you're going to start thinking of because you see this character that you know from those films. And then becomes a broader play because there's a lot of implications there. But then as the show, if you take it in the context of the show and what we've seen so far, that may not necessarily be the answer. There could be other things going on. And so that's what makes it all so smart, because you can't necessarily take it on face value. And we don't even know what face value is at this point, because there's so many different things and questions. And I think that's probably, for me, part of the brilliance of what the show is doing, is because it's playing on so many different levels, and you just don't know which one they're doing. And they're giving you the slow, drip of where things are going. And apparently, at this point, we've got 3 more episodes left to get those answers. If there isn't some weird sort of bonus episode, and they said that there might be hour-long episodes for the next 3. Who knows? We'll see. I guess we'll know soon enough. But there's just so many different places to go, and obviously we got to get there pretty quick with only 3 episodes left. So
yeah,
I'm just super excited at this point every Friday to be able to watch it.
I think at the end of that episode, it's just, you see him and it's the realization of, okay, so this is the Fox version, the X-Men. This is what we're meaning when we're saying it's going down different roads, for any of the listeners that are kind of like, what do you mean? Like, is this bringing in the multiverse, which we know is happening? We know it's coming up in the next few movies, but is it starting now? Mm-hmm. Are we getting multiverse now? Right. Or are we just pulling in X-Men right now? Like, is this just like some kind of weird way they're going to bring it into the canon of Marvel, like, which totally makes sense too, and then also pulls in more multiverse. And it's just there's so many little caveats that kind of pulls into it all. And the meanings are kind of endless in a real way. Like, is he, when it comes to like that's just show in itself, as we know, like Wanda can kind of just create and do whatever she wants in weird ways. Like, is she casting him specifically because she doesn't really want to see, in her head, her own Pietro? Like, is she specifically casting it this way, right, or is it something else? Like, we don't know, and that's what makes it so interesting. So it's like we're just kind of waiting for these reveals, which we do get so much more information in the Halloween episode. But it's cool, and it's like, does she understand what's going on? Does she understand it's a different Quicksilver, or is it the same Quicksilver and it's just done this way? Or it's layered, and you just don't know which layer it is they're going to pull from until the story continues to slowly unravel. And that's what I think is really great about what they've done with the whole show as a total, is every episode you start pulling back a little bit of layers. You never see all of it. And it takes like 3 episodes before you're like, okay, I think I've got all of this one now. Okay, but then it opened up 4 other sections, and like you're just slowly opening up the onion. And it's a cool way to do it. And I think it really is going to be leading into some great reveals for so many of the movies that are coming out. I think for Captain Marvel 2, for Doctor Strange, Multiverse Madness of Multiverse. What is it called?
Multiverse of Madness.
Right. And then, what is it? Ant-Man and the Wasp. I think between those 3 films, this show is going to just be such a huge catalyst for those storylines. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, agreed. One of the things that I continually am impressed by is just the look of it. It's obviously, they've said, I forget the number at this point, but they spent millions per episode on the show. And sometimes you get so sucked into the idea of what we're used to that you kind of forget that this is something we're watching on TV that wasn't a film. And some of that played into this past week's episode when you see Vision doing his Vision things, and it's like, that looks straight up movie quality, like he's seeing what he does, but you forget you're watching this on a TV. This was meant for TV as opposed to a film. So that thing continually impresses me and makes me look forward to the next project that'll be coming out, which is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So I don't know, David, did you have anything else that you wanted to say about WandaVision?
I mean, I guess I would say, to kind of like update my thoughts on the show in general. I mean, and I'm with you guys. I am thoroughly overall enjoying the show. But I also, for me, I think I recognize it as if there is a fault for this show for me, it's this show is fascinating and a lot of fun to watch as a Marvel fan. And I don't think this is a show that does a good job of just being a great standalone show that happens to exist in the MCU and anyone could just kind of come in and enjoy this. But that if you're a Marvel fan and you watch everything, man, it's so much fun to see how it ties in. Like, I think what makes this show fascinating and interesting is the mystery behind it and how is it going to tie into kind of kicking off things post Endgame, you know, even though, yeah, I know we got Far From Home, but whatever. Yeah, like, I guess it's my way of saying is like, I think it's a fun show to watch. Do I think it's a great show really on its own? I really don't think it is. Like, yeah, I agree with you. I think it looks great. I love watching each episode and like the era of television it's kind of playing an homage to, and that's a lot of fun. And I love all the tie-in stuff and the Easter eggs for Marvel comics and the Marvel films, the MCU. But if I have a problem with it, I think it's that it's not like you know, most people, I feel like even if you don't watch a lot of Star Wars, you could jump into The Mandalorian and go, man, this is a fun show to watch. This is enjoyable. This is a bounty hunter and this little, you know, weird alien kid, and they're doing these kind of random one-off adventures. It's interesting. This is fun. But WandaVision, I think if you weren't watching Marvel movies, you would watch this, and I would guess that you would be like, I mean, I even watched Marvel movies in the first 2 episodes. I was like, what in the F is happening? I mean, now at least I get it, but I think this is not the kind of show that would just kind of appeal to a broader audience. I say that, and I know we're recognizing it's like the most popular show in the world, but also MCU is extremely popular. Most people watch it. Like, right. I do get that, but I guess for me, I think there'd be something to be said for stuff that exists in the MCU that's good on its own, but also fits into this universe really well. I don't know that this is it.
I definitely agree with you. This show is not a good standalone TV show. And it's just the whole idea behind this show is not to be a TV show that anybody could just pick up and watch. It's just
right. No, and I recognize that too.
I'm not. I fully agree with you. If it was to watch the show and just be a standalone show, you'd be like, "What the hell am I watching?" Like, you know, I think it would put people in a place like, remember when Lost first came out and everybody was just like, "What the hell am I watching?" It's like, take that feeling up like 10 notches is how I think anybody who had zero Marvel knowledge, they'd be watching it like, "What the hell am I watching?" And I understand that. But I also just know, for me, like, the show was created not for the purpose of just any general audience member. It was created for people that are interested in the Marvel world, period.
Right. And I'm admitting that's why I enjoy the show. As a Marvel
that's why
fan,
I love it.
I enjoy the show for that reason.
I love it. I'm a big Marvel fan.
I will say, and this is purely anecdotal, but because I listen to different podcasts and watch different shows and stuff, I've heard on at least, just off the top of my head, maybe 6 different sources of things that I listen or watch where the people who are watching it are Marvel fans, but somehow they've convinced someone in their life, whether it's their wife or a friend or someone who hasn't watched any Marvel stuff, to watch this, and that they've gotten into it and now are going back to watch the actual Marvel stuff. So maybe it's not necessarily inviting on the surface, but it's one of those things where everyone's talking about it. So they're like, let me check it out. And it was interesting on one podcast I listened to, and this was really interesting because I never even thought about it and considered it really, but they were talking about the idea that one of the guys was saying that Endgame was a movie where obviously it broke so many records. It's now the biggest box office movie of all time. And that there was 2 people on the show, and one person was sort of making the argument that, you know, this movie became so big because people who've never seen a Marvel film went to go watch it. And the other one was saying, well, they just figured that was because people who already love it are just seeing it multiple times. And then the guy who was arguing, sort of not necessarily arguing, but talking about it from the other side, was saying that he knew people in his class. He was in school at the time when it came out, college. And he was saying that there was people in class saying that they were going to go see Endgame and that they had never seen any other MCU movie, but because this was such this big thing, they wanted to be in on the conversation of it all and went to go watch Endgame without seeing any of the other movies. I can't fathom that. I can't imagine that.
I can't.
But then,
and then I would also say, man, what a bummer to have your experience work out that way. That's just so unfortunate.
Right.
But anyway,
so
sorry.
Unfortunate.
Go on.
No, yeah.
God.
But then kind of almost like, well, yeah, I guess maybe that math kind of works out because even if you're fans of this, I don't know how many times the fans could have watched it or how many times they would have had to have watched it in order for them to have made it the biggest box office movie of all time without bringing in people who've never seen any of them, brand new people.
Right.
So I think that has been the case for something like a lot of these movies that have become the biggest movies of all time, whether it was Avatar or Titanic. It took people who weren't just seeing it multiple times, but people seeing it for their first time while someone was on their fifth time of seeing it, sort of thing. So that's obviously a standalone issue in those two movies, Titanic and Avatar. But I guess there is precedent for people to come into something having not seen any of the other stuff leading up to it, which I thought was kind of interesting. And maybe that's what's at play here with some of WandaVision, in that maybe because it's sort of intricately tied into the MCU as a whole, but in such a way that it's still, to use what David said in a certain sort of way, it's still sort of an intimate story between these two characters that didn't have a lot to do in the major movies that were out there, and giving them a little bit more time to shine. And so maybe that has been a gateway into people who didn't watch the movies. They're just watching just these two characters, and it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And for everybody, we're all on the same page with those first two episodes. We're all wondering what's going on. We may know these characters, but we only have just a slightly bit more information than the next person does. Right. And that's easy enough to fill in for somebody, at least within those first two episodes. Now, when they start doing more things that tie more directly into the MCU, that might take a little bit more explanation. But I think by that time, you might be already invested in the show, even though you didn't know some of the larger lore that's at play there. But it's definitely a show that I think speaks to, David, like what you were sort of saying, and that it's more inviting for the person that's been along for the ride this whole time, as opposed for someone that's trying to come into it brand new. I don't know that they will have that show. Honestly, I don't know that that's what they've set out to do with what they're doing on Disney Plus, in the same way that that on the other side of that coin, The Mandalorian is made for people who maybe haven't watched any of the other Star Wars movies. I don't know that that was their game plan. I don't know that they wanted to craft it that way. Maybe they'll have a series like, who knows, Miss Marvel might be more standalone before it ties into something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think it's two different ways to approach the same thing, and there's ways to a path to success in both of those different ways.
Right.
Sorry, David, looked like you were about to say something.
No. Go ahead, please.
Oh, okay. So something came out today for Valentine's Day that has the internet a little bit of buzz. We're getting in ever so closely to finally being able to see Zack Snyder's Justice League, and he released a new trailer for it today. Did you have a chance to watch it, David?
I did. I don't think you did you?
I have not.
I didn't think so.
No, I know. I know it came out. I just haven't had a chance.
Yeah, I watched it. I mean, it looks like I don't know even how to react to it, because it's like, I mean, it's
not like it's.
Well, it's not like I'm not. It's not. I mean, we've gotten the movie before. With that said, I mean, I think just about everything in that trailer is new footage to us. Like, I don't think I remember seeing anything in that trailer that dropped today that was from, you know, the movie we saw. So, I mean, you would think, oh man, is it exciting to watch all this, you know, new footage? But I mean, the thing is it looks like Zack Snyder, you know, looks like the Justice League that we saw. You know, it's a bunch of, other than, you know, seeing characters like, you know, for instance, it ends with a shot of Jared Leto's Joker. You know, we got a kind of a tease of that earlier, I think earlier this week, when Zack Snyder had posted, you know, Zack Snyder he takes a lot of still photography on his sets of his characters and stuff. And, you know, he releases a lot of that stuff on his social media. So he teased a couple photos of Jared Leto's Joker, which is stuff that he has shot more recently, from my understanding, for the movie. You know, he doesn't look exactly like the Joker that we saw in, you know, the Suicide Squad film. A little more disheveled and, you know, I guess is the best way to put it. But, yeah, he gets a line or two there at the end. And, I mean, so that's interesting to see. But, I mean, overall, it's like, okay, cool, we got the trailer. I mean, I say this, and I'm very, very interested in seeing this movie. I'm very curious to see if a 4-hour cut of the Justice League ends up sitting well with me after, you know, the Justice League film that we did get already. Like, I want it to be really good. And, you know, I've talked to people who are big DC fans. One guy in particular who he's frustrated, like that, hey, yeah, this is great and all, but they're not going to do anything else with it. It almost seemed like kind of that, well, what's the point attitude? Like, I don't want to see something that could be really great and then no, I can't get any more of this for the most part, other than, you know, you're going to get maybe another Aquaman film and more Wonder Woman. But, and I don't take that perspective with it. To me, it's like, that's the nice thing about it as well, that it's coming out on HBO Max. It feels like a little extra. We get to see what Zack Snyder wanted to do, and it could be really good, and I hope it is, and that'll be it. And I'm then excited to see Robert Pattinson's Batman in the future, and what other Batman films we get with, you know. But yeah, I don't know. Overall, it's my long way of saying that the trailer was cool, I guess, but I wasn't like blown away by it or anything. It was just like, okay, yep, it looks about like what I would expect. It looks like a Zack Snyder Justice League movie, and I guess I'll just see how it all fits in context. That makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I was just curious if it blew you away or if it amped up your excitement to see it more than you already were. So sounds like you're still at the same place you were prior to it.
Yeah, it's like, no, it's not, but it doesn't disappoint me. It's about what I expect.
Right. Okay. Well, Michelle, obviously you said you didn't watch it, and I'll say that for myself, I chose not to watch it just because of the reason that you actually said, David, is that I had a feeling it was just going to be all stuff we hadn't seen before, and I don't want to see more stuff from it at this point. With it being so close, I would rather just see it all laid out in the 4 hours to watch it then, as opposed to seeing a little bit more now.
First choice.
Maybe that's what I'll do. Because honestly, like, I want to see the Zack Snyder cut. Like, I'm curious to see, like, but I'm with David. I'm in the camp of like, I want to see this film, and even though I know we're not gonna, even if it's awesome, I know we're not getting more of it, and that's fine. It's nice to just kind of get to see what the initial vision, or somewhat close to, I guess, the initial vision was to be for this film, and I think that's the important takeaway for me, and so, yeah. I probably won't watch the trailer then.
But with that said, I don't find that watching the trailer was like, oh man, I wish I could have not seen these scenes and just seen them in context. Like, it's definitely, I mean, I only saw it the one time. Maybe I need to watch again, but it felt like it was cut in a way that it was just kind of almost all quick shots of things. Not of a lot of, you know, like setting the, you know, the tone or the story, you know, the new story for what this movie is going to be as opposed to what we saw before. So I don't think, you know, I'm going to go into the movie on HBO Max going, oh man, I know this is coming or I know that's coming because I saw the shot in the trailer. Like, this wasn't that kind of experience. And I've definitely had this kind of experiences with trailers, and this was not that. So,
Yeah.
if you're watching or listening to this and thinking, oh man, should I watch it or not? I mean, I definitely, respect the idea that you guys not watch it, and maybe I shouldn't have watched it either. But at the same time,
it's not doing damage.
You could watch it. This is not going to do any damage. It's not spoiling anything,
right?
By any means. Yeah. I think I had seen a headline before I clicked on the link to the trailer this morning. I think it was from like Hollywood Reporter, like Heat Vision, saying like, it was just like a total clickbait kind of headline, like Joker like steals the show in new Justice League trailer, and then I watched it and I'm like, did he though? Like I saw him for like maybe 24 frames, like
right.
I think it was a quick shot. I guess, I got 2 still images I could analyze this week I could see more detail than I saw in this quick shot in this trailer. Anyway, just thought that was funny. But yeah, I don't think watching this trailer is going to ruin anything for you.
Okay, so here's one thing. And I don't hear anyone talking about this yet, and I think it's just because everyone hasn't really sat down and realized it. In the way that I did, or some other, maybe a small section of people, but we've got Zack Snyder's Justice League comes out March 18th. The following day, we got Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming out on Disney Plus. Now, which do you think will get more viewers that weekend? Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 1, or whatever they decide to release, or Zack Snyder's Justice League?
I mean, I think it's not going to get no contest. I think it's easily going to be
Falcon Winter Soldier.
For one, if Falcon and Winter Soldier, I don't know if they're releasing 2 episodes or 3 in the opening weekend. I don't know if they've said, but either way, it's still less viewing time right off the bat. It's also a more popular universe to most people. And there's a lot of people that still probably just don't even care to watch, especially considering it's going to be a 4-hour film.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually of the camp. I know Yashik is here not to speak for himself. I know he was very anti the whole like releasing it as 4 1-hour kind of episodes. I guess I saw it either way. I'm kind of fine either way. I would have been totally fine with releasing it in 1-hour bits week, over a 4-week period. Because I will say that the idea of sitting down for 4 hours one night and watching this is like, man, I mean, it's a
little daunting.
It's like I want to watch it in one sitting to really have that true, sitting down in one sitting experience of watching this movie. But man, that's a long time for something that's not Lord of the Rings for me. Like,
that's a long time.
So I think they did say that they were going to do it at 1 hour an episode for 4 episodes. And I'm wondering if the reason why they decided to just do it all at once is because they don't have as much confidence in an audience coming back week after week to watch it. And I say that only because I don't know that I'm saying I don't feel like I'm saying that because I think it's bad, but I think it's because of some stuff that Zack Snyder has said in the past, in that he said that I don't know in terms of total amount of minutes, but from what he's said, it doesn't sound like there's a lot more added footage, in terms of the totality of what he shot. He finished things that he had already had done, and then he maybe shot 5 or 6 minutes worth of new material to sort of bridge some of those things together. But most of it is stuff that he had already had, but just didn't finish in post or whatnot. And so I feel like, and he also did say that he was not going to use anything that Joss Whedon shot. So I feel like the skeleton of what was already there makes up a majority of it. And so, like, let's say if you broke it down into 4 episodes, in one episode, you might only have 2 minutes worth of Zack Snyder's extra stuff in the episode, and everything else is pretty much the same, because it's not something that that Joss shot. It was something that was already done, and that, it was original from Zach's original stuff that he already did. So maybe people would feel like, well, this isn't much, if you break it down into the 4 episodes, the 4 parts, you're really only seeing, that total episode or that total amount that was new, in sort of like small little doses in the overall hour runtime of it. You're not seeing all that much new. So they probably feel like maybe if you just do it all in 4 hours, then they won't have the time to sort of sit there and dissect it in that way, that they're not really getting that much, if it was just as a week-to-week basis. I don't know. That's just sort of my guess, but I could be totally wrong about that.
See, and I don't have any articles or anything in front of me either right now. Like, I feel like I've heard him say that, yeah, like the extreme majority of what we're going to see in this is stuff he shot when he originally shot the film. Though it was my impression that a good chunk, an over 50% chunk of the movie we are going to see is stuff that he shot originally, but we haven't seen in the Joss Whedon cut. So it seems to me that a good bit of this movie is going to be new to all of us, even if he did originally shoot it and we just never got to see it. That's the impression I've gotten. And yeah, there's definitely not a whole lot that he has now shot like more recently to kind of add to it, like the Jared Leto stuff, for example.
But still, in like an hour episode, you're probably getting 7, 8, 10 minutes of content that's new, maybe.
No, I'm saying that's not the impression I got from what I remember him saying.
Yeah,
I'm saying
he's
much more
saying
than
that. Like in an hour episode, you might get 50% that's new, and 30%.
I think as a whole, it was just a better decision just to make it one movie. Just be done with it.
Yeah, who knows? Of course, I think we'd all be curious to know how it really played out behind the scenes. It could have just been Warner Brothers going, no, we're not doing this in hour bits. You're doing this like this. Or maybe he had the power to make that choice. I could also see it just being like, hey, he had that idea, but then when he was cutting the film, he was like, I can't really cut this in hour bits that are nice hour little bits. Like,
right, there's not a good
stopping point here of an hour.
Yeah.
I think, to then entice someone to come back to the second week to watch the next hour. Like I could see that too, where he goes to Warner Brothers and goes, you know what, this isn't gonna work as a miniseries. Like it's got to be a big 4-hour cut. Who knows? Well, we're all speculating. But.
Anyway, I'm hands down, Winter Soldier and Falcon are gonna be.
Yeah, I don't think that's a contest.
No, not at all. Not even close.
No.
Yeah, it's funny because I guess I was maybe thinking there'd be a chance that the Zack Snyder's, just because of how long it's been hyped up for and how many people. But I think if anything puts any water on that for me is that it is 4 hours, and to be able to watch that so many different times within a weekend, you're only going to have so many times and so much time to watch it. And most of those people are probably crossover people that will watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier as well.
Yeah, they're going to watch both.
I think it'll have to be killer word of mouth. Like if this movie is in fact, wow, this was the Justice League we should have seen. And word of mouth just starts to spread like wildfire. I think that's the only way that this does any better in terms of viewership that opening weekend.
I think that the circle, the pond that's actually interested in the Snyder Cut is just really, there's a lot of people that are interested, but I'm saying it's really small in perspective of anything else like that Marvel would do. And so, it's going to have to be just stupid amazing for word of mouth to just lose its mind. It's just, there's just so many big ifs for it to really do any major damage or catch up to numbers of Falcon Winter Soldier. Anyway.
Well, before we get out of here, I guess I should mention a couple little things that I had a chance to catch up on for this week. One thing was that I had mentioned, I think it was the week before, that I had finished listening to the audiobook for the High Republic new Jedi book that came out. And since that time, there's been another big book that came out called Star Wars The High Republic Into the Dark by Claudia Gray. And Claudia Gray has done some other fantastic novels that are canon since the Disney and Lucasfilm merger or got bought. So this was something now that's canon that she's done in the High Republic. And I had a chance to listen to that audiobook as well. And I really enjoyed it. I thought that what was good about this particular one, it was a brand new set of Jedi that you've never seen or heard from about before. And the story in this is some of the stuff that were from the events of the first book that came out play into this slightly, just in terms of being a inciting incident that leads this group of Jedi and some other passengers that are aboard a ship to land on this abandoned space station. And there is a lot of stuff that they discover on this space station, and it leads them into different ways of dealing with the things that they encounter. And you've got a young Padawan, you've got a couple of seasoned Jedi, one Jedi who is struggling with her particular path, and that if she wants to continue down the Jedi path or if she wants to go off and be something called a way seeker. And way seekers are people who, I guess if you wanted to sum it up as somebody who could potentially be a way seeker, I don't know that she was ever given this term, but it'd be someone like Ahsoka Tano in her later years, where she was not a Jedi anymore, but she was still on the side of light and pursuing that avenue. And there's someone like that in this story as well. And yeah, it's a pretty good story. I will say that I still enjoyed the first book that came out more than this one, but this one was still very solid, and it's building towards some other things that were laid out towards the end of the first book. So I'm really enjoying this High Republic time that they've been putting out, and look forward to the next book that I think comes out maybe in March. So I'll be looking forward to that one. And when I listen to that, I'll fill you guys in on that as well.
Very cool. Yeah, I still gotta finish listening to the first one, but I'm enjoying it so far.
I've been curious to actually like physically read the books.
Yeah, you should.
I'd like to.
Yeah, I would love to. Honestly, if I had the time more so to read a book than to listen, I absolutely would. If for no other reason than just to be able to know the names a little bit better. Yeah. Because sometimes you hear the names in an audiobook and you don't quite connect it as well. And in this case, a lot of the characters that are in these books, they have a visual representation, either in a comic or in an art form of some of the stuff that they've released for this new series of books. So it's like when I hear the name, I'm kind of like, now how do you spell that? I hope Google can kind of recognize what I'm going for, so I can pull up what this character looks like. So it would be a little bit easier if I was reading, though.
I agree with that too. Yeah. Just even listening to the first book. And I say this, and one thing I really like about the audio versions of the Star Wars books is there is some production quality that's kind of done compared to some other audiobooks. But and even the voice talent, who's always just one person, I mean, it's hard for me to wrap my head around like being able to like do so many different voices under in one production like that, and remember like this is how I'm going to make this guy sound, and so I'm going to make this guy sound, and so many different people. With that said, and as good of a job as I think the guy does, there are times I'm listening to his version of these voices and I'm like, I kind of wish I could just read this and do this on my own in my head, because I don't think I would make this person sound like this or like that. So yeah, I kind of wish I had the time to read, or to read at least this. But yeah, audio is best for me right now in terms of fitting it into my life.
Yeah, I'm sure that the name situation, I definitely understand what Bobby's saying. Yeah. I'm sure it's not anything like as hard as I can even imagine, like listening to like the Lord of the Rings. My God, I'd be like, wait, who in the what? And what's that name? Like, that would be super lost on me if I listened to the audio of that, I think. If I had no knowledge of what Lord of the Rings was, obviously I do. But, like I could see where Star Wars gets that way sometimes. It gets, the names kind of get similar-ish. And then, I could see being like, wait, who, what now? And wait, how is this spelled? And
Well, and that too, like, and when you're just reading a regular audiobook with just people, it's fine. You imagine the way they look, whatever. But in a Star Wars universe, yeah, you might know certain races and the way they look in the Star Wars universe,
Right,
but
general.
then in general too, like, you don't have any idea what these people look like unless there's some good description happening. That's one nice thing about Lucasfilm and Star Wars, them putting out like some images of what some of these Jedi are supposed to look like. So at least if you do look at that, you can kind of have in your head when this
Right.
character comes up. Okay, especially if this is a character that is probably going to appear again and again, maybe in other books or
Right.
maybe other material. It's nice to already have like an image you can kind of
Right.
put in your mind of who's talking or what have you. I don't know.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So looking forward to the next one. And one other thing I got a chance to watch this weekend, which was the new movie from HBO Max for this month, and that is Judas and the Black Messiah, starring
I
Daniel
wanna
Kaluuya
see that.
and Lakeith Stanfield. And this is the
Absolutely.
story. Okay, so this is the story of, well, it's really Lakeith Stanfield's movie, because this is Bill O'Neill in his story of how he infiltrated Fred Hampton's Black Panther group and really sowed dissent on the behalf of the FBI, because the FBI wanted to quell this revolution. And again, it has a lot of similarities, at least on a main concept level, that Trial of the Chicago 7 has, in that you're really dealing with an abuse of power and what that can do and how that can decimate a people and a cause. And that's what's going on here as well. There's a lot going on with Lakeith Stanfield character of Bill, in that the reason why he gets into it in the first place is because of an incident that now he can be put to jail if he doesn't do what they say. So he's under pressure to do this thing. And you can see the conflict and the inner turmoil that he goes through as he's doing this thing that he's getting more and more attached to. And he does an excellent job, as he always tends to do in movies. And then also Daniel Kaluuya, he's excellent as Fred Hampton. And if there was any criticism I would have towards the film, it would be that I would have loved to have seen more of Daniel Kaluuya as Fred Hampton. They don't really get as involved with him or in Dominique Fishback, who plays his girlfriend in the movie, their story, because it's not necessarily that they're not trying to tell that story in this movie. It is more about Bill's story as Lakeith as Bill's character and what he's doing, and it's taking that perspective. But because Daniel Kaluuya is so good in it, you can't help but to wanted to see more of that, and that's not the way that the film is going with it. It leaves you kind of wanting to see more of that, but it's not a bad thing. It's just you kind of wish there was more of a good thing that you were getting. And yeah, it's definitely worth seeing. I really enjoyed getting to see that, because honestly, I'll say I didn't know much about Fred Hampton, and I knew who he was, and I obviously knew of the Black Panthers, but I didn't know this story. So getting to see this in this way, I think it was beneficial to be able to learn that aspect, and to make me want to go off and now look into some more things about it because of the way that this story was told, and to just learn some extra facts and to do a little bit more digging on the side for myself. But great performances, great story. I definitely absolutely recommend it if you have HBO Max.
Yeah, I guess you wanted to watch that. Sorry.
I super want to see this movie. I mean, I know so very little about the Black Panther movement, like historically about it. Like, it's one of those things that, unfortunately, in American school system, it's kind of gets kind of, you know, snowballed over and rolled into, and just kind of gets flatlined in. It's like, oh yeah, there was this movement that happened in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, and it was the Black Panthers, and yeah, that happened. And it just kind of gets rolled over. And you're like, wait, what was that? What was that blip? What was that what happened, and you don't get to learn anything unless you seek it out information. And so I feel like I've always had a kind of an interest more historically on the happenings and the inner workings of it. And so to get any little bit of information in a movie format, I'm down with. Hopefully it's somewhat as close to historically accurate as possible, but obviously they'll take their own little things with it. But no, like, I've heard the performances are amazing. I heard the storyline is just really good. The writing is really good. I've been wanting to see this one for a while, and it makes me want to get back into like learning more about everything. And I want to see this movie. It looks so good.
I would say
that's what drops this weekend. God,
I would say this would be a good, if you haven't already, this would be a good companion piece to watch with One Night in Miami. The two of these, would be a good little pairing together.
Yeah, I still want to watch that one too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Good stuff out there right now.
You should watch it. Why are you looking at me? One Night in Miami. It's on Amazon Prime right now.
It sure is. I know.
It is.
I know it is.
Okay.
Aside from that, that's all I got. And did you want to say something about the movie, David, or was there?
No. I was going to point out really quick. We're going to wrap things up, but one other thing we have started watching, and we'll have watched most of it at this point, is Ted Lasso season 1.
You have. I've been waiting for someone that I actually know to watch this thing, because I have never heard of a show in my life, maybe other than Schitt's Creek at this point, that is so highly regarded by every single person that's seen it.
And because you don't have access still to Apple TV Plus, right? So you haven't seen it, right?
Oh,
exactly.
Oh God! If we could get you Apple Plus,
it's quite good. I mean, it's just a fun watch. He's such a likable character, and at the same time, and it could seem on the surface, maybe in the first episode or two, that maybe the show would have a fault of just being like too like sunshine, but it's not. Like he definitely does have some depth to him, and you get into that deeper into the season. It's not just that he's like this great, super happy, look at the sunny side of life all the time kind of guy. But yeah, it's quite good. I'm
jealous.
I love Ted Lasso. It's so good. Yeah, it's nice because like what David's saying in the first episode, you're kind of like, this guy seems almost too good to be true in his positivity and his attitude towards life and the way he can kind of spin anything into a positive way. But there is more depth to him. He hides a lot and he keeps a lot internally, and so you slowly learn more about him as the episodes go on. And it's got some good legs to it, and I'm so happy there's going to be a season 2
and 3. And there's going to be more episodes in season 2 than just the first season, apparently.
And I know some people are turned off by it because they're like, there's 2 reasons why people are turned off from what I'm understanding. One is some Americans don't like British shows or British comedies, because they're afraid they may not understand anything. And for me, I'm just kind of like, I really hope that doesn't deter people, because it's not a British show or a UK show. And if you might have some challenges understanding some of their accents, throw on the subtitles, like it'll be fine.
Right.
And then I know some people are like turned off because they're like, oh, the focus is on soccer, football, they're like, that's, I don't know anything about soccer. I have no desire to learn anything. I don't want to. And that's such a level below what's happening in the show. So I feel like anybody who's like, oh, well, I don't want to watch it because it talks about soccer, move past it. Like seriously, like it's not yes, soccer is the world that they live in, but that's not what the story is all about. Not what it's all about. So it's you could replace it with almost any sports team, any kind of sporting anything, baseball, basketball, football. It could be about any sport, honest to God. So I hope that people will take those 2 things. If that's what their hang up is on the show, then just throw it out the window. Just jump in. Just go for it. I promise you're not going to be disappointed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, and not only like is Jason Sudeikis great in the show, which he is, but Juno Temple is really good in it.
Yeah.
Like, in her character.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's good in the show. It's
Yeah.
it's solid, but she's also just kind of a standout, I think, in it.
Totally.
Yeah, we haven't finished the first season yet, but they're easy watch. Probably finish it this week.
They've been a really nice, like, at the end of a long day when you're like, oh, I don't know, should we like just do our own thing or watch a movie or what should we watch? And we just can't quite come up with it. It's like, oh, let's just pop on a Ted Lasso.
It's easy.
And we pop one on, and I have yet to regret any night that we've been like, let's watch a Ted Lasso. But every night I've been like, oh, that's great. Let's watch another one. Like, it's so good.
You really should just really throw a month at Apple TV Plus.
You should, Bobby. Just binge a month of it.
And,
oh, so good.
Yeah.
It's available on tons of different devices, not just like it's an Apple TV device thing. You know?
Right. Yeah. I've thrown the idea of trying to watch it on several occasions because that's the way I want to try and watch it, honestly, is just binge it, because I don't know if I'll have that time to just kind of watch it on a regular basis week to week. So I'm like, okay, the minute I get a break where I can just blaze through it, that's what I want to do, because definitely there's that, but then there's other stuff on Apple TV Plus that I really want to check out as well. So it's just a matter. I just barely reactivated my CBS All Access that's supposed to be turning into Paramount Plus, I think, next month. Yeah, because they have a good deal right now for anyone that's listening or watching and is interested. They have a deal where you can get a year's worth of CBS All Access for half off, and it comes out to like $50, I want to say. If you put in this, there's this code that you can put in, and you can get the year for $50, and that's a great deal. So, now I'm starting to jump back into this last season that just ended for Discovery, because I watched the first two seasons. So now I'm watching that. But
I was going to say,
I definitely want to do the Ted Lasso thing for sure.
Yeah. It's a good watch.
It's a good watch. It's an easy watch. It'll be an easy binge for you. I know that once you find the time and you can just commit and be like, okay, I'm going to do it, you're going to blaze through it so fast because you're going to enjoy every episode. Every episode's going to end. You're like, all right, let's do the next one. Okay, fire up the next one. All right, go to the bathroom, get some popcorn. Fire up the next one. They're just really enjoyable. You just keep wanting to see how his story unfolds. You're going to be like, oh, I did that in like a day and a half, guys. What are you guys doing?
Right.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, that was the last thing I wanted to bring up, unless anybody has anything else. Anyone? I know you watched a lot of stuff, Michelle. Nope. Anything else you forgot?
I'm sure I forgot stuff, but I would say that those are kind of the
big ones.
The big things that I watched in the last month. Really, I think I've basically been gone for a month.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well,
but I'm back.
With that, we are going to wrap things up and get out of here. As always, we would love to hear back from everyone listening and watching. You can email us at feedback@flickereffect.com with your questions and comments. If you are watching us here on YouTube, you can comment or ask questions down below in the comments section. Make sure to like and subscribe. Hit that bell icon to be notified whenever we post any videos or go live in the future. And you can reach out to us on social media. We are on Instagram and Twitter at @Flicker_effect. With that, I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
And I'm Michelle Hillard.
Thanks for listening and watching.